Welcome back to Square Off. You might not know that our lawmakers get a daily allowance while the legislature is in session, whether they're at the Capitol or not. Here's how much of your tax dollars they'll collect by not showing up for work for almost 3 months.
The fact that they're continuing to take vacations in the middle of the session means that they're getting per diems every day for not doing any work.
Per diems are a daily allowance to cover lawmakers' work expenses. They can collect per diems while the legislature's in session, even if they're not on the job. The legislature took a month-long break May 16th after passing the state budget. Lawmakers worked just 2 days in June, last Monday and Tuesday. They plan to return to the Capitol on the last day of July, July 31st, with no set agenda. So let's do the math. For 80 days of not working during May, June, and July, that includes weekends, your lawmakers as a group will collect an estimated $409,000 or more. And the big winner in the per diem sweepstakes at the Capitol are lawmakers who live outside Maricopa County. They'll haul in about $10,000 a person. Let's find out what two Capitol journalists think about that and much more. Ray Stern of the Arizona Republic and Wayne Schutsky, editor of The Yellow Sheet, which dishes scoops to all of us. Welcome to Square Off.
Thank you. Thanks.
Let's talk about that per diem windfall for lawmakers. This isn't money. This is money for doing nothing. Shouldn't conservatives feel some remorse about this?
They don't seem to. The Senate Democratic leadership brought up this issue on the last day of this most recent couple days of work and kind of said they shouldn't be doing this. We're taking money for not doing anything. And their response was kind of, they were appalled that anyone would bring it up. So yeah. They seem to be okay, at least going through July 31st.
And Democratic lawmakers benefit from this. Ray, it seems that this is one way of kind of getting around their low pay, which stinks, 24 grand a year.
It does.
Is this a way just letting them get per diems for doing nothing?
In a way, it does. I mean, certainly extends how much money they get per year. But there's a reason for that. Basically, especially for the out-of-town people, they can't go back and forth to far-flung areas of the state all the time, and so they have to get money to maintain an apartment here, or and food and whatnot. So the fact that they're going into these long vacations, however, and are only working a couple days a month, certainly are a striking example of doing work for nothing. Or getting paid for nothing.
And I suppose some of the blame for this goes to Republican leadership who have teed up a session that might end in August, at which time it would set a record for the longest session ever. And can you explain why?
Yeah, that's what we're hearing at this point. It's August, though. The Senate president, we heard initially wanted to go into October. That didn't sit well with a lot of other lawmakers. The on-the-record statement is that they want to have more time to vet Governor Hobbs' nominees to lead various departments. Now, Republican Senate leadership hasn't been able to tell us why they haven't been able to do that vetting over the past weeks, months that they've had these many nominees before them. My guess is that they want to stay there in case Hobbs appoints another high-profile position, something like the Department of Health Services, which we saw went through a very contentious hearing earlier this year because of differences of opinion on science-driven issues like vaccines.
Like vaccines, right. Let's listen to Republican State Senator Jake Hoffman, who claims he needs to meet in the middle of summer. As you said, after vetting Governor Hobbs' nominees for director positions, he controls the powerful Committee on Director Nominations. Let's listen to Jake Hoffman.
There is due diligence that's being conducted to ensure that the nominees that Katie Hobbs has put up are sound and are experienced and are capable of serving in these very important positions.
Is anybody buying Jake Hoffman's explanation? He had a lot of time to vet nominations.
Well, they have a lot of questions for these people, especially about their left-wing positions, supposedly. And since they've only confirmed 3 out of a couple of dozen over the last few months, it does make you wonder, how much longer is it going to take? And Hoffman is now talking about possibly just convening until the end of the year.
Say that again?
sine die. That's right.
He's talking about staying in session till the end of the year.
Well, not in session. Basically, the Senate confirmation, the Dino committee will continue to meet and vet the nominees, and then presumably the ones that can't be dealt with by the August sine die that people are hoping is the sine die can be dealt with after January with the new legislative session.
Wow, that's unprecedented. Let's move on to Prop 400. You heard Danny Seiden and I talking about the perils of it in the last segment. Do you agree with him that this midsummer session, this August, could be a time when they might settle it?
Well, I think that's certainly a chance, yes. You know, there's bargaining chips that can be negotiated. Senate President Warren Peterson told me the other day that one of the reasons that they're waiting until August is because not only the Dino committee, but the possibility of a deal. And he didn't say which deal, but you know, there could be, or not a deal, but basically a deal over some policy that is still outstanding. And of course, Proposition 400 is one of the biggest.
Is there anything else substantive they need to get to?
I'd say Prop 400 is at the top of the list. The people I'm speaking to have been cautiously optimistic that a deal with the legislature is still possible. But I spoke with Maricopa County Supervisor Jack Sellers, who sits on MAG's board, and he said he's spoken to lawmakers who make him think there's a possibility, but that there are reasons to doubt that.
Reasons to doubt that, and you agree that going to a statewide vote could be really dangerous.
That's going to be tough, and so they better hope that a deal can be made by August. One of the big problems could be that voters last year enacted a new law that would require 60% of voters to approve a new tax, and I think that could apply to this one. So that would just be an extra hurdle that this proposition would have to get through.
The other question is, what exactly would the statewide initiative include? Last week I've been talking to people involved at trying to get a straight answer on that, and everyone gives me, we're still looking at that, all options are on the table. So whether they're trying to roll back the rule that stops the county from going out for this tax, or just putting this Hobbs, Maricopa County Association of Governments plan straight to voters, we still don't know. So.
Okay, let's check off what happened during that abbreviated two-day session last week. Boy, 2 days of work after a month off, man, that was tough. With time running out, the legislature passed within 48 hours with supermajorities a bill that would restore water service to Rio Verde foothills. Kind of a complex arrangement. Will it work?
Correct. It seems like it could work for the time being, though that it wasn't the chosen solution for a lot of the folks that actually live out there and are dealing with this issue. But it seems like the biggest question now is we still don't exactly know where the water's actually coming from. The governor said water's there, it's just a matter of who's going to provide it. And those seem to be...
The state's going to be in the business of running a water district, I think, for the first time ever. My understanding is EPCOR, the private water provider, will provide it, and ultimately it's going to be up to Scottsdale to reach an agreement on how much they want to charge for treating it and transporting it in their pipes.
Right, and I think it only goes for 3 years as well, so they're going to have to figure something else out soon.
Ray, Republicans punished a Democratic senator who hid Bibles from the members' lounge under seat cushions. What was that about?
Well, some say that it was about revenge. But I think this, basically the representative who was censured, she was the one who filed a complaint against a Republican legislator who was expelled back in April. And so she's been, sort of scrutinized. And then, of course, she made the mistake of being caught hiding these Bibles on camera. And, you just couldn't expect Republicans not to jump on that.
And they did.
And they did, and they tried to expel her, but that vote failed for basically not only not getting the Democratic votes that they needed to get a 2/3 majority, but 4 Republicans didn't even go for that. But they did vote for censuring. Most of them did.
Predictions, will the legislature sine die after this July 31st session, however long it might be?
Well, I would just say that one problem with the long sine die is that laws have to be enacted 90 days after sine die. And so already we're going to have like a 3-month delay on that from, say, a June sine die. And there's some important bills that are going to be, kind of impacted by that. including one that gives mental health therapy for 911 operators. And Melody Hernandez, the representative from Tempe who sponsored that bill, said that it would save lives. And so if that's true, then that endangers lives to extend that too long.
And it might not take effect till November or December if this continues. All right. Ray Stern, Wayne Schutsky, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.